welcome you to my podcast, Yarn to Table. If this is your very first time watching me, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really happy to have you here, and I hope that you see something that you like and that you will subscribe and become a regular viewer. If you are a returning viewer, I want to thank you so much for coming back and for all of your support. It's been really great seeing you guys joining the Ravelry group and adding your comments and asking questions and just giving me lots of support. So it's awesome to know that you're out there, and I'm really happy that you can spend some time with me today talking about all the knitty things. So, as I mentioned, there is a Ravelry group. If you search for Yarn to Table, you can find it, but it'll also be in the doobly-doo. And you can find all of the show notes there with details on any of the projects that I talk about. You can also find lots of details on the projects on my Ravelry page, my projects page, because I keep that updated really well. And that is on Ravelry, I am Celeste Vole. I'm also Celeste Vole on Instagram, so you can follow along with me there, see little bits of progress on my knitty stuff and other things in my life also. Today I am actually drinking coffee. Normally I have the tea in the little teapot in my opener and everything, but it is a Sunday morning, and well, it's actually, I think it's noon now. It's been kind of a long morning, but I'm definitely feeling in a coffee spirit, so I'm going for the coffee. And this is my very favorite thing. I think I could probably say this is like my favorite object. This is a treasured mug of mine. It's my moose mug. The artist, actually, I could probably tell you something. Birchstone Studios, and I think you can actually find them online. One time I started to panic what would happen if something happened to my moose mug. I love it so much that I sort of like preemptively was worried that what happens if something happens that it breaks, which, you know, I've had it for like 10 years and it hasn't, but so I saw the stamp on the bottom and I searched for it, and there are similar ones out there, or at least there were at the time. So if you love it as much as I do, and honestly, I don't know who could say no to this face, then you can search for it. The funny story behind this mug is that I was staying with my Aunt Lisa in Austin, and Austin, Texas, and she had this mug and just in her cabinet, and I would have my coffee in it every single morning because I loved it so much. And at the end of the week, she was like, no one has ever appreciated that mug as much as you. You have to take it home with you. So it was just an impromptu gift from my loving and good-hearted and very good taste in home goods aunt. And I brought it home with me, and it has been my priority mug ever since. I have lots of pretty mugs, but I almost always use this one because he's so cute, and his little nose even fills with the hot liquid, so when you hold him, he's sort of perfect to hold this way as well because of his nose. And God, he's just perfect. Okay, now that I've ranted a lot about my mug, let's get into the yarny goodness. So I have a half object for you today. And then I have lots of works in progress, including a new thing that I started that I didn't know I was going to start. So that's some fun stuff to look forward to. And then I have a mini stash enhancement, and kind of pretty exciting one though, if I'm being honest. And then I'm going to do some chit chat at the end by popular demand. So let's jump in. My half object, I don't have like the leaning tower of project bags over here, and I'm afraid I'm gonna pull one out and they're all gonna go Jenga everywhere. So my half object is my, in my Society 6 Harry Potter pouch. Oh gosh, it smells so good. I put a lavender sachet in here, just like a really basic little bag. And before I even unzipped it, I could smell it, which was so lovely. So I had the idea to put the lavender sachet in here because these are Amortentia socks, which is the Harry Potter love potion. And I mentioned that I was knitting on the first one, watching the 6th Harry Potter film. Oh, look how it matches. That's cute. So the sixth Harry Potter book is the one that where Amortentia plays a role. And Hermione mentions when she's asked a question in potions class that Amortentia smells different to everyone who smells it. It smells like a combination of their favorite things. So like hers smells like freshly mown grass and new parchment and spearmint toothpaste, I think it is. So I started thinking, what would my Amortentia smell like? And wouldn't it be cool if I could make my project smell like that? And it already smells like wool, which is definitely one of my favorites. And the other thing that I thought of was lavender. So then I popped my lavender in here. So now I honestly have this like lovely little pouch of yummy, love potion-y Amortentia goodness. Oh my gosh. And it's just, I mean, the yarn is so gorgeous. Okay. If you haven't seen this, here's my half object. The way that this colorway knits up is just incredible. I don't know if it's the magic of the love potion that has just made me go head over heels for it, but it is so great. So this is Little Bean Loves in the Amortentia colorway on her Sparkle sock base. And I did my regular 1x1 twisted rib. I think I did it for like 12 or, yeah, that looks like about 12. I think I did it for 12 rounds. Then I did a longer leg than I normally would just because I was having so much fun knitting this yarn. Fish Lips Kiss Heel, actually marked it with a little removable stitch marker so that I would know where to put in the Fish Lips Kiss Heel and how to measure, to make the next sock exactly the same so I can count my rows. And then I did a true rounded toe, which it turns out when I was talking about rounded toes before, I was actually doing star toes. I always did a traditional toe, like where you decrease on the sides, so I didn't know what I was talking about. So this time I did a true rounded toe, which is like you have, I think I have about 6 decrease spots instead of having 4. And I just like the look of it better because when you look at the top of the toe, here are the 3 different decrease spots. So it's just more symmetrical. It's not like it's truly symmetrical, but I just didn't like the look of having a line right down the middle of the toe. I really didn't. And I also didn't like the look of having 2 lines that were going in the same direction. So you've been following along with my saga on the toes there. I've been experimenting with different ones instead of the Kitchener. I really like just pulling them tight and having this rounded toe just because it's so much more enjoyable, I guess. I'm not a person who's like really minds doing a Kitchener. I haven't memorized. I'm usually not far from a darning needle. So I don't care that much, but for some reason I don't know, I like the look of it. I like the tiny little star that it kind of makes at the toe. It just feels sort of old-fashioned and homey for some reason. I've just been enjoying it lately. So I think that I finally found how I like to do them with this 6 decreases, which if you do the math, I think it was something like I knit 4 and then 2 together, whatever. It would be different for your stitch count, whatever you have. But so these are 56 stitch cast on, which I have found to be what I love, and I'm really excited about wearing them with the longer leg and seeing how I like that. I feel like it's making a lot of sense to me to do my vanilla socks with a longer leg and any kind of lacy sock with a shorter leg, because for one thing, the vanilla socks are so fun to just go round and round that it's like it doesn't bother me to have to do a big long leg. I feel like it gets done just as fast as any other sock, whereas a big long lacy leg would take a lot longer. But mainly just out of practicality, when you have a lacy eyelet sock, it's not going to be keeping your foot as warm as a vanilla sock. I'm sure there are textured socks that keep your foot just as warm as this, so I don't necessarily have any thought that I wouldn't want to do a textured sock with a longer leg, but when I'm doing an eyelet sock, I think it's cuter when it's shorter, and the whole point of an eyelet sock is to be cute. It's not really about keeping you warm. So that's my thought process there. This might be longer than I prefer. This is certainly longer than I've ever knit before, and it's just kind of an experiment. So it's an experiment, and it's sort of an accidental thing where I really just knit the leg that long because I was just having so much fun with the leg, to be honest. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see how I like it. But right now I'm really loving the whole one vanilla, one pattern sock thing. And I'm loving these so much. In fact, as you can remember, last week when I showed you this, I had not started the heel yet. I think it was a couple rounds before the heel when I showed it to you. And this week, not only do I have a half object, but I'm almost finished. Here's my Fish Lips Kiss heel, the entire leg, and then I'm about at least halfway, I would say, down the foot. So, yeah, so that's exciting. I can't wait to wear these, of course, because they're so lovely. And I am doing them on the 9-inch circulars still because I don't want to mess with my gauge by swapping out. I did actually transfer them onto a longer needle to do the toe, because I don't think, certainly haven't heard of anyone being able to do those decreases on a 9-inch, and I don't know how you would. So I don't really love that you have to transfer it. I feel like it keeps it simpler to just be able to do the whole thing magic loop. So I feel like that's another strike against the 9-inch circular for me. And while they are certainly more comfortable than they were when I first started, I don't find that they are more enjoyable to me yet than magic loop. So my review so far is, I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily, I'm not won over. Yeah, so that's the story there. Just absolutely in love with these socks still. It's funny how much you can love a vanilla sock when you really, really love your yarn. I find that when I'm planning socks ahead for the future, I think a lot about sock patterns, and I find pretty little, textured socks, and those are great as well. But one of the things that I don't plan ahead as far is the yarn, because I don't have a huge stash and I don't want to buy a ton of yarn ahead of time and have it sort of stack up and not be used. So I find that a lot of times, like in this case, I will buy the yarn and then right away start the sock, and it'll be a vanilla sock. And so it's this sort of thing where I wasn't planning ahead what I was going to do, and then it just sort of showed up in my life and brought me so much joy and was such a wonderful sock knitting experience and a beautiful sock to wear. And I just love the way that you can fall in love with yarn that way. It feels so much more spontaneous than how planned out my knitting typically is. So that's something that I've been enjoying lately, to kind of mix up my knitting life. It's just sort of falling in love with some yarn, which you will see a bit more of that in my stash enhancement, just as a little preview. So now my work's in progress. While we're on a sock kick, I'll show you my current patterned sock, which is, it's not a textured sock, but it is a more complex sock than a vanilla sock, so it's filling that role for me. I think last time I just had the white cuff, and now I just have a couple rows. I basically did these stripes while I was editing the podcast right after I recorded it last week, and then I haven't touched it since then. So you've got one podcast edit of progress, and that's it. These are going to be the Love Socks by Devin Clement. So they have Intarsia hearts on the heel flap. I'm doing them in gray and white with a pink Intarsia heart, and I think I have decided. Last week I was struggling to decide if I wanted a solid pink or if I wanted to use my leftover pink punk for my Wildflowers and Honeycomb sock. This is a lovely colorway by Fiber Revolution yarn, and I'm pretty sure I've decided I do want to go with the pink punk, just because it's so pretty. So I have that in there, and we'll see if I make much progress on these this week. I think I'm going to finish the Amortentia socks, and then we'll see if I get really into the vanilla that I cast on after those. I would ideally like to have these done like for Valentine's Day, but at the same time, it's like, that's like 10 days away, 9 days away. And I'm just not in the mood for deadline knitting right now. I'm on a bit of a deadline, although I'm definitely going to make it, with the Miette cardigan for my friend's birthday. And I'm coming off of all of the pressure of Christmas, and I'm just like, I have the sort of loose deadline of I want to do about 2 socks a month still going on in my head. But I don't, to finish 2 pair of Valentine's Day themed socks before Valentine's Day, which is only halfway through the month, is just a little crazy. So these are definitely Valentine's inspired. I like that they're my February socks. I'm probably not going to finish them and wear them on Valentine's Day. I'm probably going to wear the Amortentia socks on Valentine's Day, and they are also Valentine's themed. So it's like, it's not like you can wear 2 socks at once anyway. So, I mean, technically you can, but yeah, so I'm totally cool with that. It's not like they're the kind of socks I wouldn't wear at other times of year. I mean, you know, they're still totally versatile. So I've made my peace with that, I guess is what I'm saying. So the next WIP, just to remind you of what I'm working on, although I'm pretty sure I haven't touched this. I may have done one more repeat. This is my Ashburn shawl, and I'm doing it out of Madeline Tosh 80-10-10. And I had just started the second section, and I don't even know if I've done one more repeat since I showed you. I might have not done anything since I showed you. Honestly, I'm really excited about wearing this, but I'm not, the new repeat, the new section that I've started is not intuitive yet, and I don't know if it's going to get intuitive because it's a bit of a longer repeat than the other section. So I think that's kind of what's been keeping me from being super excited about jumping into it again. Although now that I've been off of it for a week, I am kind of feeling like I would like to jump in and make some progress. This is more of a product knit than a process knit for me, and I'm more of a process knitter, so I think that's part of what's going on here. And it is in my Good to Be Girl Ghastly's bag. And I have a great little Wednesday Addams enamel pin that says, "I'll stop wearing black when they invent a darker color." Okay, so my next work in progress to show you is my Miette. And as you know, if you've been watching, this is an Andi Sutherland pattern that I am making for my friend for her birthday, which is February 18th, so I have plenty of time and I'm almost done with it. And this is also part of the Andi Sat-Along, which is an Andi Sutherland garment knit-along that inside number 23 is running, I believe, all the way through the end of March. So there's still plenty of time. Most of her cardigans are, and pullovers are cropped and fitted, and there's a lot of 3/4 length sleeves, and a lot of them are made with worsted or Aran weight. So like, this is the kind of sweater that is gonna knit up fast. So as you know, I sat down, I've been doing this in big chunks, so I sat down and I did the yoke in one day, then I did the rest of the bodice and the first sleeve last weekend in my second sitting. Today, I picked up here where I've got my progress keeper, which was the end of the yoke, and I've just done this much. This was just a tiny bit of knitting that I did this morning, but I am going over to my in-laws' house for the rest of the sort of lazy Sunday for the Super Bowl, and I expect to, I'm gonna take this and the Amortentia socks, and I would not be surprised, honestly, if I finished both of them. I definitely think I'm gonna finish the sweater, or at least, I mean, I'll definitely finish the sweater sleeve. Then at that point, if I feel like picking up the button bands, I will, or I might cheat and just move on to the socks. We'll find out. But I feel like I'm probably going to pick up the button band because at that point, I'm just going to be so close to finishing it that I'm really going to want to do that. So after the sleeve, I have the button band, I have the neck, and the only detail on this is this lovely sort of eyelet zigzag texture that goes all the way down the fronts and the bottom and the sleeves and around the neck. And it's also got these lovely little darts in the shaping, which you can see right there, that'll just help it be that more vintage fitted look, which is very Kelly's style. So I'm pretty excited. I think it's gonna look really cute on her. I'm just doing it out of Knit Picks Dishy in the Fiesta Red colorway. And I have buttons. I actually meant to bring them up and show them to you today, but I guess you'll see them when it's finished, probably next podcast, hopefully. The buttons are really cute. They're red and they're heart-shaped, so definitely a bit of a Valentine's Day inspired thing going on there. I probably won't give it to her until her actual birthday, but I suppose if I did give it to her early and it was before Valentine's Day, she could wear it on Valentine's Day, which would be cute. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, I barely knit on that just this morning, but I'm definitely going to knit on it more today. So the way I've been doing my Miette is it's sort of my weekend project. And every other time that I showed it to you, I had sat down the day before because I record on Sundays. So I'd sat down on Saturday and had a big chunk of it knit. And this week I did not work on it yesterday, Saturday. I just worked on it this morning because yesterday I was still really into this new work in progress, which is the last whip I'll be showing you today. So this is something that I had a wild hair to cast on, and I think it was Wednesday or maybe Thursday, and then I've been doing it in the evenings. So basically my primary knitting time, unless I'm on the go, in which case I'm knitting my socks. So I've been knitting on this after work every day since then, and I knit on it for most of my knitting time yesterday, although I didn't get a huge chunk of knitting time in yesterday because my husband is off this weekend. Right now he's working 2 out of 3 weekends. He is a medical technician, so he works in a hospital lab, and so he has to work 1 out of 3 weekends anyway, but lately he's been working 2 out of 3 for complicated reasons. So when he's not home, I pretty much just hunker down and have like major knitting time on the weekends. When he is home, sometimes we spend some time together, which can involve just sitting next to each other, reading and knitting and that kind of thing. Or we try to get some projects taken care of. And so yesterday we actually did had a pretty productive day with things like that. So I'll probably get into some of that in chit chat because I do think it's fun and interesting to talk about, but I know not everyone's interested. So we'll talk about that in chit chat. I'm going to stop making you wait to find out what this is. And just, who knows? Have you guessed? All of the ins are a hint. Oh my God, there's so many of them. Did you say Cozy Memories? It's so squishy and it smells like wool and I love it, and it's pretty, and it has all my memories in it because it's the Cozy Memories quilt. I love it. Let's talk about this, shall we? So basically, you know that I am doing the Beekeeper's quilt, and Ryan, my husband, was like, are you not going to do the Beekeeper's quilt? Is this replacing that? For me, this is a very different concept and a different project. So the Beekeeper's quilt, although I do use up some leftovers in it when they fit the color palette, it's a project that I've curated a specific color palette for. I've bought some yarns that are just for it, several, and then when I do use up leftovers, I knit several Hexapuffs with the same leftovers. It's not like just one it's not like a sampler situation. And I only use leftovers that fit the color palette specifically. So With the memory quilt, I want to make only one square for each yarn as a sampler. And generally speaking, I'm not going to promise that I won't incorporate some kind of minis in the future, especially if there's special minis, like some kind of pack from a dyer I really love, or like some kind of theme that I love, or something that someone gave me. But for now, my concept is very much inspired by the concept that Molly of a Homespun House had when she started hers way back in the day. I really liked the way that she talked about it as being a sampler for her projects specifically, that it would remind her of the projects she knit, or projects that her grandmother knit, or like very specific yarns that tied her to a time. I really like the idea of it being like that, and I've always thought that this is so cute, such a cute project. I love that it's garter stitch. I love the way garter stitch looks, and I love how mindless it is to knit. And then the way that I did it is with this lovely center double decrease to create the V's down the center. And that is inspired by the way that Katie from Inside Number 23 knits hers. So first, let me show you what all of the yarns are and what projects they're from, and then I will talk just briefly on the technique that I used to make mine. This is the first square that I did, and this is just Knit Picks Stroll Heather in Dogwood, and I made sort of my first, this was sort of my first project that got me excited about knitting again this year and really restarted my knitting mojo, where I've been knitting every day. I talked last week about starting knitting while recording Return to Stars Hollow, and that is the project that I started doing with that. And then after I finished that, they were some lacy socks that are pretty much just bed socks now, because the pattern had me using US size 3s, which I feel like is way too big for a pair of socks. But anyway, I used the leftovers to make a pair of baby socks as a knit ahead project for my future daughter, which I'm not, and I apologize if this is like weird, but I think a lot of people do it. I'm not even trying to get pregnant right now. We're not going to be trying for another couple years probably, but we do know that we want kids, or at least one kid, and I love baby socks. I've made baby socks before for my nephew and maybe somebody else, and it just felt like those pink socks were so special because they really kick-started this knitting fury in me again, and it just felt like I wanted to make a tinier pair, like a little matching pair. So I made eyelet socks out of these, which are just like the cutest freaking thing ever. Maybe I'll show them to you sometime. Yeah, so that just felt like exactly the square that I should start with. So like I said, like this yarn itself, it's just some Knit Picks sort of bright bubblegum pink. It's not anything super special as far as yarn is concerned, but it's special to me because it has those associations with it, right? So then this is the Knit Picks Stroll Thunderhead Tonal, which I used for the first socks that I ever made for my husband, which was for this Christmas. And again, they're only bed socks because they're way too big for him. But you know, you live and you learn. This is some, I think they call it, I think it's also Stroll, but it's a Knit Picks fingering weight. Obviously they're all fingering weight. Tweed. It's like called Welly's Tweed or something like that. And it's one of the colors I used for my brother's juggling balls that I made him for Christmas. These two are the Alpaca Cloud from Knit Picks. This is Charlotte and this is Anna, and this was the sugarcane hat for my sister-in-law, and this was the Ivy Trellis mittens that I knit for the Never Not Knitting Swap. This is my Bugera de Gumi printed sock yarn that I made my sugar plum socks out of, my Christmas socks this year, and this is the Stroll Dove Heather that was the contrasting heels and toes for them. This is the Felicity and Chickadee that was for my chicken coop socks, and this is the Stroll in Mint, which was the contrasting heels and toes for that. And then this is my Fiber Revolution in Pink Punk, which was my Wildflowers and Honeycomb socks. These three are what I'm knitting my Ashburn out of currently. So these are Madeline Tosh 80-10-10 in Boxcar, Minimal Pink Clay Optic. God, isn't that so gorgeous? And Scout. And then this is the Amortentia, which is by Little Bean Loves, in her Sparkle sock base. So, yeah. So I think I'm going to do one more square, and then that'll be the first row. That'll be 15 squares. They're about 3 inches wide, so 15 squares will be like 45 inches, which I think is going to be a good size. I know some people sort of start theirs as more of a small rectangle and build their way out, which I guess is more practical in terms of having it be like a baby blanket and then a lap blanket and then an Afghan. Like, you can use it more practically along the way. So I have had some thoughts of like, maybe I should have done that. But for some reason, because I was starting now and I had my lineup of my yarns from recent projects that I knew I wanted to use, and they felt like they were about the length that I wanted it to be, I just really liked the idea of them all being in the same row. So that's what I did. And I do think it's going to simplify the construction to just be doing row upon row upon row rather than kind of trying to place them and get your way out. So a few notes about the construction. If you have not started a Cozy Memories quilt, if you are one of the only people left in the world who hasn't, like myself, one thing to keep in mind is how you want your decreases to go. So whether you do the center double decrease or another form of decreasing, it's going to create what they look like. Some of the ones you've been seeing are just a regular garter stitch band across the middle because they didn't do the center double decrease. But there's also the thought process of what direction you want those going in. So I wanted them to just all go in the same direction across the entire quilt. I think it looks really, really nice, but I also like the simplicity of the way that you can just place your next square, and it's always the same way that you've placed your previous square. Other people have situated them to do like cool diamond shapes or to all be pointing toward the center. I think both of the women on Hey Sister are doing them so that they all point toward the center. So, you know, there's different options on that. And so the way that I've done it is I literally I cast on 41 stitches. I like mine a little bit on the small size. I think some people do like 51 or something like that. I mean, everybody does it differently, but I really like this size. So I cast on the 41 stitches, that's here. Then I started on my wrong side row. I always purl the center stitch on the wrong side and center double decrease on the right side. You keep going back and forth, you do your whole thing. Every row I slip the first stitch and knit the last stitch through the back loop, which helps create this nice, easy to pick up edge. And so then you can tell this is where I started, this is where I bound off, or, you know, I basically decreased until it was nothing left. And then at that point, here in the back you can see where I picked up 20 stitches and then cast on 21, and then wrong side your way back, right side, and that creates the next one. And then pick up here, cast on here, do the same thing. Pick up here, cast on here, do the same thing. All the way until you get to the end. And then when I start again, I'm just going to do it where I cast on first and then pick up so that it's creating it right there. Okay, now that we finished with the whips, I'm going to briefly run you through my On the Horizon because it's mostly stuff you already know. And then we're going to get into the stash enhancement. Okay, so On the Horizon, the Hops A Lot Felted Bunny Slippers by Tiny Owl Knits. I ordered yarn for them somehow the address was wrong. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what happened, but it's been a whole nightmare, and it got returned to sender, and now they're sending it again. So really wanted to do those this week, but it wasn't in the cards. So now I'm just going to be even more excited when the yarn shows up and I can do them. But I have made decisions on 2 of my Harry Potter yarns from Little Bean Loves that I showed you a while ago. I have decided what they're going to be for sure. So when I do finish the Ashburn, my next project will probably be one of these. If you haven't watched me before, I generally try to keep my whips under control by thinking along the lines of a garment, 2 types of socks, vanilla and more complex, and then something else. And obviously you've got the sort of the Cozy Memories and the Beekeeper's Quilt are sort of off doing their own thing. Like they are whips, but they're sort of not whips because they're kind of, you know, a thing that you do in your spare time that you're going to be working on for like a year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever. So I generally try to keep my whips where I'm like, okay, sock for on the go, vanilla sock for on the go, complicated sock because that's my favorite thing in the world, garment, and then like something else. So right now my something else is my Ashburn, and the future plans for the something else's are getting kind of there's kind of a traffic jam going on with them right now. So as you know, I have a couple hats I want to make. It'd be nice to make them before winter's over. I want to make the Lolo by Jared Flood with leftover Brooklyn Tweed Shelter In sweatshirt left over from my Kodo pullover. And I also want to make another sugarcane hat for myself, a plain black one. So that's a hat where you hold fingering weight yarn together with a strand of Kid Silk Haze, and it creates just like a really, really gorgeous halo. And I'm going to make a solid black one for myself. So that's a really simple pattern. I could sit down and make it in like a day or like 2 evenings. But it's sort of like backed up in the traffic jam. And also in the traffic jam are these Harry Potter projects, or Harry Potter yarn projects. And so, as you may know, I bought a few Harry Potter colorways from Little Bean Loves. The Amortentia got made into socks. The Molly Weasley, which is this lovely variegated with like gray and cream or white and pink, is a luxury base. And so I've been feeling like I want it for socks, but then I also can't decide. So that's the one I haven't figured out yet. The Dirigible Plums, which is this really gorgeous, it's like the color of the inside of a plum, but then it has these places where there's like a dark purple, like the outside of a plum. And I've decided that I'm going to use it in a Miss Winkle shawl, which is a pattern by Martina Bem. It has this like cool little spiral detail along the edges. I just think it's exactly the kind of whimsy that matches up in my mind with Luna and that Dirigible Plums colorway. So I think that's going to be a really fun match. And then I've decided that I want to use the Hermione, which is just a lovely sort of tonal mauve shade, in a beret for myself. And so, you know, another hat for me. And I searched around for a lot of berets, trying to find the one. I had in my mind for a while that I wanted it to be lacy, and then I finally decided that I really, really just loved the Alana Dakos Molly beret. It's pretty simple, solid, and I just think it's going to look so gorgeous in the Hermione yarn. So yeah, so now that I've assigned my Harry Potter yarn to projects, that's making it you know, the traffic jam is at least a little bit more planned out. So yeah, so I'm excited about that. And then the other things are, so for my garment, when I finish with the Miette, I might just work through the traffic jam for a little bit instead of starting a new garment. Or I might buy yarn and start my Floam cardigan. Or if I'm totally in a like full speed ahead on garments mode, I might start my ingenue pullover and then do the Floam cardigan. But I probably don't have enough winter left for that, to be honest. So I don't know if I'm going to go straight into the Floam, or maybe I'll work through the traffic jam for a little ways. As far as socks are concerned, the whips that I showed you are my February socks, and I have some plans for my March socks. My next vanilla is going to be the Pygmy Puff colorway from A Homespun House, more Harry Potter, which is a lovely bright pink and purple colorway that's much like the Amortentia, perfect for socks because it's so bright. And for my patterned socks, I'm going to do this really cool lacy pattern called the Renesmee socks, which are by Rachel Cooper. And they're from an ebook called When Vampires Knit Socks. So they're all inspired by Twilight characters. I'm not a big Twilight fan, but I am a huge fan of this ebook. Like, I want to knit all the socks in this ebook. It is so, they're so gorgeous. So I definitely recommend that. But I'm really excited about the Renesmees. I'm doing them out of a Knit Picks Stroll. Another tonal, like the tonal that I use for my husband's socks. I really like their tonals. I think they have a lot of depth. And this one is pearlescent, so it's sort of like their white tonal, and it gets into some sort of iridescent shades, and I just think it's going to be so gorgeous paired with the lacy pattern because it's simple, and I just think it's going to be great. Yeah, so those are my plans for March, and then of course I have my husband's socks as well, so those might get started up soon also. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, so that's everything I have on the horizon. Now it's time for stash enhancement. First thing I have to show you is a project bag. You guys, I followed the trend. I don't know how many times you can see people gush about one project bag before you decide that you should buy that project bag. Especially when, like me, you keep projects in like random bags that pillowcases came in. Yeah, so I felt like I could use the excuse that I needed an actual project bag. I mean, yeah, so I did it. If you don't know, this is by Fringe Supply. It is the field bag. It has these really great, sturdy, I mean, like everyone keeps saying how fun this is, but like, it's really fun. It's so fun. I'm gonna keep doing it. Oh my god, it's so much fun. You're not having fun anymore, are you? Are you still having fun? Are you bored? I'm gonna keep doing it. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Anyway, it's got this lovely thing. And apparently the trend with the cool kids now is to put your enamel pins on your fringe bag. I don't know. I saw Kemper from Junk Yarn do it, and then I was like, I want to do that. I want that. I want that. So I did that. These are all from various Etsy shops. If you like any of them and you just Google them on Etsy, or Google them on it. If you just search for them on Etsy, I'm sure they'll come right up. This is a cute little kitty taking a little cat nap with its little cat mask. And a beet, because that's my favorite food. Margot Tenenbaum, who is also, by the way, right back there, if you haven't noticed her before. And then Feminist Killjoy, because you're looking at her. So anyway, this is my Miettes in here right now. Aren't you so proud of me for not sidetracking and talking about this bag back when I was talking about the Miette? I waited until the stash enhancement section, you guys, because I'm like so organized. Yeah, so basically, because I've only been knitting on the Miette a tiny bit, I don't have enough real-world practical experience to review this bag real properly right now. But, you know, everybody else loves it, so it's probably great. And I certainly think it is lovely, and I'm excited about it. So, yeah, stash enhancement project bag. And then the telltale crinkling sound. That means yarn. I'm sorry if that sound like makes you crazy. I'm gonna, even though I just crinkled it like all to hell, I'm gonna now try to crinkle as little as possible because I know that's probably not fun for some people. Before I show you this, if you joined the 1 month only Elizabeth Bennet Great Characters of Literature themed sock yarn club from Nora George, and you've not received your yarn and you don't want to see it, then yeah, look away. I guess I won't describe the colors, so just look away and then I'll tell you when you can look back. If there's anybody out there who fits that description, which there probably isn't, but I don't want to be the mean spoiler girl. So, okay, look away now. So this is Elizabeth Bennet. I got the pack that comes with the lovely heels and toes, which of course is like exactly my color. Very similar to another yarn that I mentioned earlier that I will be making a certain project out of. But then the sock yarn itself is not similar to anything that I have in my stash already, although it is very much something that I like. So I'm pretty excited. You can see the fiber content here. It's a 75/25. Okay, I'm going to put it down. You can look now. So I'm really excited about that yarn, and I'm thinking that I want to make a pair of Tulsi socks out of it. On my sort of sock calendar, I told you guys that I planned crazy ahead of time, but on my sock calendar, I have Tulsi socks for June, and they're one of the only ones that I didn't know what yarn I wanted to use yet. One of the only patterned ones. Obviously, I'll have like vanilla socks popping in that are just sort of more spontaneous and yarn inspired. But I think those would be really good for the Tulsi. I think the Tulsi wants, it doesn't want like a solid or a really simple tonal. I think it wants something that's more, what that is, that I'm not going to say. Yeah, so that's fun. Okay, so before I move on, so in stitches, I mean, all I've been wearing this week is like every day I've been wearing my hand knit socks. So now that I have 3 pairs and almost 4 when the Amaranth are done, it's basically enough that if I rewear them a few days and I don't mind a lot that they get stretched out, I can wear them pretty much every day, which has been awesome. So that's great. I'm wearing the Sugar Plum at the moment. I don't know if I already said that. Yeah, so that's awesome. I did wear my Koto again to work this week, and I love it. The only thing I don't love about the Koto is it's hard because it's so oversized. It's hard to fit it comfortably into a coat with like the armpit region. So that's kind of a bummer. But I've been loving wearing it. So anyway, I'm going to move on and do a tiny bit of chit chat. I did ask you last week if you would be interested in this, and a few people said they liked that kind of segment. So I am going to do it when I have something to talk about, or just feel like talking, or have some extra time to talk. If you're not interested, no hard feelings at all. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking out my knitting. And make sure that you subscribe if you want to hear more from me, and hit the thumbs up button to help other people find me and all that good stuff. And thanks so much. Join the Ravelry group if you want to hear more. Loved having you. And now we're going to jump in and do some chit chat, and I'm going to knit while we chat, because God forbid I waste any time doing something and not knitting. So today is Super Sunday in the US, and I'm not a big football person. I don't think you have to be a big football person to do something Super Bowl related on Super Sunday, because it's just sort of it's almost like an American holiday. So if you don't know much about this, basically there are all of these huge, interesting commercials that come out that air during the Super Bowl, and nowadays a lot of them will air online ahead of time, which is sort of ridiculous. But So every single commercial during the game is a new commercial. And they often have like celebrity cameos, or they're like really emotional or really funny or really smart. And I work in advertising, so like it's not like a huge passion of mine, but I appreciate it a lot as an art form, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I shouldn't say it's not a huge passion of mine, because I'm a professional content and copywriter. So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't care about advertising the way I care about knitting. I don't have a podcast where I sit there and I talk about advertising for an hour every single week. It's my job. So it's something that I am passionate about. It is not something that I am obsessed with the way that I'm obsessed with yarn, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, I love watching the commercials. I love talking about them with my husband, who's also into advertising. I love talking about them with people at work. And this year, there's been a lot of talk about the Budweiser commercial. That's sort of a really emotional message about the United States being a country of immigrants and our history, and people feeling unwelcome here, and that they should be welcome here. And of course that's really relevant right now, so I'm not gonna lie, that commercial made me tear up when I watched it online. So yeah, so that's a huge part of it. There's the game, which I can never follow. I like to think that I'm a fairly intelligent person, but I'm not gonna lie, football is a really complicated sport. I've tried a lot to learn the rules, and it is just, it's just punishing, honestly, to try to keep up with it. So at this point, I don't care. The halftime show is sometimes really cool if Beyonce's there, and sometimes it's super lame. Sometimes there are just weird things that happen. Like a few years ago, there was this blackout that happened in the city where the game was being filmed, and so there was, in the middle of the biggest television event of the year, you have people just like stalling and trying to fill time for like 45 minutes. I'm trying to raise my knitting up a little bit so that you can actually see me doing it, because otherwise it's just me staring at my lap, which I know is probably not the most exciting visual thing to see. So just seeing people like fill airtime for 45 minutes and then seeing people make jokes about it on Twitter was like, that was actually, I feel like, the best Super Bowl ever for me. And then the other thing about the Super Bowl is the food. So there are things that are like traditional food that you eat. I think buffalo wings is probably the big one. If you're not familiar with American food, buffalo wings are like fried chicken wings that have been rolled around in this spicy hot pepper sauce. There are other sauces that you can do, but traditionally it's like a spicy sort of it's like a buttery sriracha basically. And then you serve them with blue cheese dressing if you have good taste, and ranch dressing if you hate happiness. And celery for God knows what reason. And what I love is all of the bizarre bastardizations around buffalo wings. So, like, my favorite thing in the world is this buffalo chicken that we make with Plated, the meal delivery service. They have this buffalo chicken pizza, which I made on Friday night. And basically you do like your pizza crust, you put blue cheese and mozzarella on it, and then after you bake it, you spread over the top like shredded chicken that's been mixed in a buffalo sauce, and then you dollop over like a sort of ranch dressing, which is nice because it has like the blue cheese and the ranch aspects, because honestly they are both delicious. I'm just teasing, but you know, I really feel sorry for you if you can't appreciate blue cheese, because it's delicious. So anyway, we had that pizza and that was amazing. And just people make these things for, like, if you are unfamiliar, you should get on Pinterest and search. I almost said Google again. Not every search is Google. Okay. Get on Pinterest and search for Super Bowl food, because there are just horrifying things on there. Like really, really ridiculous. It's like the one day of the year when Americans are like, let's out-American ourselves. Like, let's make something that is a bastardization of a bastardization of a bastardization of an original food, and then like let's do freaking cake batter dip that you can dip like pretzels in, or let's have like a freaking potato skin filled with buffalo chicken that looks like a football. Like these are real things. So I just think it's fun, and I usually, some years we don't do anything at all and we don't even watch the game. But some years, like this year, we're going over to my in-laws later today, and we're gonna watch it over there. And I like to make something and take it to have with family, and so I think it's fun to find a recipe that is right in that sweet spot of like ridiculous but also delicious, because some of the things, they just look gross, but others, like a buffalo chicken pizza, is like actually really, really good. So what I'm doing this year is I'm doing some pull apart bread. So basically you take like Pillsbury dough and you cut it into like squares, and then you put stuff between it, and you sort of stack them all up in like a loaf pan and then bake it. And then you have this crazy bread that people can like pull chunks off of, and it has all kinds of toppings and stuff like layered in the dough, if that makes any sense at all. I'm doing mine with a jalapeno popper theme. So after buffalo wings, like jalapeno poppers are another like super traditional kind of, not traditional, but like popular, like a very popular sort of traditional Super Bowl type food. And a jalapeno popper, if you don't know what that is, it's like you take a jalapeno and you fill it with cheese. Sometimes it's sort of cheddar-y or sometimes it's cream cheese. Then you batter it and then you fry it. And then you usually dip it in like ranch dressing. I don't blame you if you're not American and you don't understand American food at all. Like, I get it, but at the same time, like, have you tried it? Because there's a reason we're all fat, and it's because our food is delicious. I'm sorry. That's really, well, that's true. What am I saying? So I decided to do that theme. So in between my dough, I'm layering just like a thin smear of cream cheese and some shredded cheddar cheese and sliced jalapenos. And I think that's going to be really good. And then, because I can't leave well enough alone, and because we have some strawberries in our fridge that we really need to eat or they're going to go bad, I decided I'd make a second one with more cream cheese, since we have the cream cheese anyway, and sliced strawberries and some strawberry jam, because we have that in our fridge as well, and call that a strawberry cheesecake pull-apart bread, because that's what this holiday is all about, really. It's not about football. It's not about commercials. It's not about Beyonce. At the core, it's about taking one crazy American food like pull-apart bread and then mixing it with another crazy American food like strawberry cheesecake and creating a weird sort of like The Fly mix-up combination that is just like truly in the spirit of America. Yeah, so I guess yay Super Bowl. To be perfectly honest, I don't even know who's playing. Like, that's the other thing you should understand if you're not American and you don't understand anything about Super Bowl. Like, I'm pretty sure the Patriots are playing because they're always playing. And I feel like I've been hearing more about Tom Brady than usual because, like, no one can shut up about Tom Brady because he's so ridiculous. But I have no idea who the other team is. And honestly, you could tell me, like, the Tigers, and I would be like, sure. Like, I have no idea if that's even a team, but probably is. I do have a favorite NFL team, which is the Baltimore Ravens. And they are my favorite because their colors are purple and black, and they're named after an Edgar Allan Poe poem. So, like, obviously, they're going to be the best team. Like, I don't see any other teams named after poets. Speaking of Edgar Allan Poe, he's also back there. Do you see the little circle right here? Right there. right there. That is an Edgar Allan Poe cross stitch that I did. So I'm not kidding when I say I love Poe. And it's purple, so like go Ravens, I guess is what I'm saying. Anyway, so that's what we're doing today, and I mentioned that we had a nice productive day yesterday. We finally put away our Christmas tree, which is horrible, but like, to be fair, we loved it. It was so pretty. It was bringing us a lot of happiness, and it only just started to feel like it had been up for too long about a week ago, and then we had to wait until we both had some time off together. So it's not that, I mean, I know it's February, but it's early February, you guys. Like, give us a pass. Anyway, so we took down the Christmas tree, but then the other big productive thing we did yesterday that was so fun, I mean, we went grocery shopping and crap, but we reorganized my husband's bookshelves, his bookcases. So we're big readers, and we, we do some audiobooks and some e-reading and stuff, but we do a lot of print books as well. So in our home, we have a cookbook shelf in the kitchen. We have my nonfiction shelf in the dining room. Then I have 2 fiction and poetry shelves up here in my office right over there. And then in the family room, my husband has 2 bookcases of all of his books. All of these are like IKEA Billy bookshelves. Her bookcase, I struggle with that word. I feel like we say bookshelf, but isn't a shelf really just the shelf? Isn't the entire thing the case? So his bookcase, he basically had it like somewhat organized, but he had all of his new books that he hadn't read in the same place, and he wanted to put them into categories and have everything sorted by topic and have it just be better sorted out. And we're big like Goodreads power users too, so he doesn't really need to have all of his unread books on the same shelf because he has a page, like a list on Goodreads of books that he owns and hasn't read yet. So when he's deciding what new book to read, he can just look there instead of physically looking on his shelf. And then he can go to the topic like microhistory or whatever and find it. So we laid out all of his books and we figured out how we were going to organize them, and we decided that one full bookcase of the 2 was all history. We put all of our board games at the bottom where there's this like huge shelf because it's like an older Billy and it's sort of missing one of the shelves, and you can't like find another one for it. So we put all of our board games on the bottom because we've been having game night here frequently. And then the rest of it was history, and there was a general history section. There was like a specific topics in history section that we organized chronologically. So like this book is about something that happened like around the Revolutionary War, and this book is whatever. And then there was a microhistory section. So microhistories are things like, a book that's all about the history of like domesticating chickens or something. That's a real book he has on his shelf. And then there was a section for books about Rome, and then there was a section for sort of historical documents. So like, for example, he has like St. Augustine Confessions, right? Or like some Roman guy, I can't think of his name. So he has like about 6 different books that are like that, where it's really like a historical document as published. So that's sort of in his history section too. So that's really fun. And then the other bookcase had all his other sections. So it had comics and graphic novels all separated out with like the comic strips and then the graphic novels and then the trades. And he had a fiction section, and he had science and I feel like there was something. Biographies and memoirs, comedy, music. So we came up with these categories based on his library, and I think that's what's so fun about organizing your book collection or helping someone organize theirs is like I'm gonna have different sections to my library than he is. So he doesn't have a poetry section. I have a poetry section. He doesn't have a section for craft books, which I do. But I don't have like an entire section just dedicated to microhistories. separate from my other kind of history, separate from my other kind of history, separate from my other kind of history. Like, he has 5 history sections. So I just think it's really, really fun to just get in there and get to know someone else's book collection, especially someone you have an intimate relationship with. Like, we know each other's reading lives so well because we read together and we tell each other what we're reading and we recommend books to each other and stuff like that. So it was just really, really fun for me to help him organize, get to know his books, get to give advice on how I would draw up the sections and how to organize them on the shelves and sort of, you know, put in a couple little knickknacks and things like that to serve as bookends, or let's turn these books sideways and then they'll fit better, they'll be like a bookend or whatever. And you know, it's just like, it was a blast. We had so much fun, I can't even tell you. So I feel like if you are a knitter, there's like a 75% chance that you're also the kind of person who can really get down with like enjoying a day of organizing your husband's bookcases. So I hope that that was interesting to you. I know I went into some detail on it, but you guys said you liked chatty sections, so I think I'm going to do this every week. I'm going to pick up my vanilla sock or something mindless that I'm knitting on and just have a nice little chatty section with you. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast in general. Remember to let me know if you have any questions. Make sure to leave your comments, introduce yourself in the down bar or in the comments down there, or on the Ravelry group. If you join the Ravelry group, we have an introduce yourself thread. I'd love to hear from you. There's also an Ask Me Anything thread there, so you can leave comments, questions here, or in the Ask Me Anything thread. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Thumbs up to help other people find me. And yeah, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.